Hey everybody, I know I haven't done a video in a little while. Sorry, I've been busy. But I've been sort of binging on healthy videos, I guess you could say. So I've been really into, and I know Owen's talked about this as well, I've been really into this whole low carb, ketogenic, ancestral diet. Before you get visions of Michaela, no, I don't profess to be any sort of professional, but I do like learning about these things, and I do think I have a pretty good understanding of the science and nutritional, aspects of this diet. I also would like to preface this by saying there is a sort of evolutionary basis for this, and before any alarm bells about evolution go up, I think we have to define what we mean by these terms. Do I think that people came from slime? No. Do I think that fish can turn into donkeys, can turn into people? No. Do I think that we adapt to our environment? Absolutely. Do I think that that can happen over many, many generations? Yeah. And there's really nothing you can say to disprove that because we know that that happens. We do adapt to our environment. Some things can take a longer amount of time than others. Some things, you're not going to sprout wings all of a sudden, though they'll have you believe. But anyway, there are certain things that are possible and certain things that are not possible. And if they were possible, then things would be a lot different. That's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that. That's a whole other video, which I'm not terribly interested in doing because it just makes you sound crazy, doesn't it? Because before I get too derailed, I'm not saying that people are crazy. You can believe whatever you want to believe. But all I'm saying is there are certain things that are just of course, people, as they move and change, they will adapt to their environment. That's natural. Animals do it, people do it. There's really nothing to dispute there. But what we cannot necessarily adapt to, and we certainly can't do it in a short amount of time, because if we go on the premise of evolution, which take millions of years at the minimum, then how is it possible that we went from living as our ancestors did, and within decades, which is nothing, it's a second in evolutionary time, how could we make a catastrophic change, a colossal change from one lifestyle to the other? So again, and I'm actually going to use the standard mainstream assumptions because it actually helps the point. Both points make sense, but it actually makes the argument far more profound if I use their reasoning. So let's just, again, as I said, stick with me here, and I'm going to just do my best to explain a little bit about why this diet is a good diet and why I named the video what I named it. Okay, so let me illustrate you a picture. Millions and millions of years ago, in a heartland not too far away from where you're living now, people used to hunt and gather. People used to eat primarily meat, as in protein and fat, and seasonally, if there were some berries, they'd eat some berries. If they had some other shit that they would forage and eat, then that's what they'd eat. Some cultures, and this is actually important, certain cultures and different civilizations ate different things for a different span of time. So when I say ancestral diet, I mean your ancestors' diet. I don't mean, if Mexicans or whoever ate corn all their life and they're fine eating corn, how come I can't eat corn? It inflames my bowels, because they're not necessarily your ancestors. Okay, so but one thing that is common is, and I guarantee you this, one thing that every ancestor ate was meat, whether it was fish or red meat, be they ruminant animals, so buffalo, cattle, as in cow, or bison, or deer, or lamb, sheep, goat, any ruminant animal, which means it has more than one stomach that can do different processes. So one will digest, one will ferment, the bacterias will, eat up all the grass and shite and then produce fatty acids and amino acids and all the rest, and that's what you need. So you can't actually necessarily digest those things that the animal can digest, but it does that job for you. Of course, people also ate poultry, so like turkeys and chickens, and of course pork. But those poultry and pork are monogastric, which means they have one stomach, just like we have one stomach. And I'll just explain really quickly. That's probably not necessarily the best thing to eat. So because they sort of consume any old shit, and they're not able to process it in such a way that makes the meat output ideal. You can eat it. I'm not telling you that you can't eat it, but if you want to talk about a nutritional, health-based concept of what to eat, not religious or personal choices or your ideology, even ethically, there is an ethical way to rear and slaughter and eat any animal. There is an ethical way to do that. And I highly encourage that. In fact, I demand that, because there's no reason to be any other way. Why would you need to needlessly torture animals? Why would you need to produce more than you need to and waste it? Or do you know what I mean? Like that's a stupid question. Like, obviously, that's the way things should be. Okay, so going back to the health benefits or lack thereof for poultry and pork. And I'm not saying this because whatever. I'm just saying that if you think about the omega-3 and omega-6 ratio, omega-3 is very healthy and beneficial, and omega-6 is an inflammatory fatty acid. Now, there is a ratio that you do need actually both, but you want a higher omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. So the thing about poultry and pork is that it has very high omega-6. Actually, if you think about it, people always say nuts, super healthy. If you look at the ratios, nuts themselves also have a high omega-6 ratio. Like peanuts are super bad. Walnuts are supposed to be like a brain food, and they're also quite high in it. You can look this up for yourself. This is not something I'm inventing. In fact, I've binged, probably more than I should say, a lot of information on this. So I'm just relaying back to you what scientists, biochemists, dietitians, doctors, like general physicians, all sorts, surgeons, they'll tell you the same thing. Now, follow the money, because you will get conflicting advice based on who's their funding source, whether they even disclose to you that they have conflicts of interest, and we're going to look at some instances of that in just a minute. So, as I said, this is all available information. It's not something that I've invented to suit my narrative. I don't really care one way or the other what you do, but in a way I sort of do, because this whole, and again, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself here, this whole plant-based diet, vegan, vegetarian nonsense, it is nonsense. And the reason I say it's that, because it is the most unnatural diet. It is the most recent fad as far as ancestral evolutionary timeline. It is also something that is purely based on ideology and not based on science. And I'll go ahead and show you that in just a minute. And it is worse for the environment. It is significantly, quantifiably worse for the environment, worse for people's health. There's really, what could be worse? You're killing people and you're killing the planet, the very things that you claim to love and want to care for. There's just really nothing more to say about that. Checkmate. Okay, so back to the ancestral thing. So there's certain animals that people were hunting and eating on a regular basis, and there were certain plants, tubers, as in potatoes and this and that kind of things that grow under the ground, tubers, and other such things. Like people did eat certain leaves and things like that. But okay, caveat. I know this is going to sound crazy, but plants don't actually really want to be eaten, and that is why they have certain chemical defenses. They put out certain scents that attract certain bugs to maybe want to like sit on them to protect them from other things eating them. Sometimes they'll make little balls, like little spots on their leaves, so that it looks like larvae that a butterfly would lay or any other bug would lay. And so they think, okay, I can't lay my larvae, my eggs there, because it's already occupied space and it's not going to have enough nutrition for my offspring to eat these leaves, so I better leave and go somewhere else, find another spot. So these, and also certain cells have cyanide in them of certain plant foods, and as soon as the cell is bitten, as in damaged, that's when, and that's when it gets released, and that becomes toxic for the animal eating it, whether it be whatever. It could, of course, we're bigger than small animals, so we can maybe have a higher tolerance of it, but it's the dosage that makes the poison. So eating too much, if all you're eating is plants, then your toxicity level is significantly higher than someone who eats little to none, obviously. Okay, so that's that. Then we have to think about, as I said, in the span of millions of years, or hundreds of thousands of years, or tens of thousands of years, or thousands of years. It doesn't matter what the timeline is. The bigger the timeline, the more catastrophic the point is. But even if it's a small timeline, only the last 1%, maximum 1%, is when people started eating grain products. Now, yes, you will see things like in the Bible that, oh, let's break bread. Man doesn't live on bread alone. Okay, they ate bread, and I highly recommend to you, I should actually go and get the book off my bookshelf. But the book is called Wheat Belly, and it tells you that the kind of wheat that people ate thousands of years ago is not the kind of wheat that we're eating now, and that is why people have all these gluten problems and other problems, actually. The permeability of the cell membranes, the gut wall, the leaky gut. This wheat is so modified, for one, to the pesticides in genetically modifying the wheat, and on top of the product is killing us, literally. And so that wheat is completely different. You are not going to get this flaky, nice cakes and breads that we have now from the wheat that it is now. They would have, like, I guess you can call it like a tortilla or pita, like shitty kind of flat bread. What is it called? Like unleavened bread, right? So you would have, even with a leavening agent, you couldn't really make it rise too much. It's just different. It's called einkorn wheat, and there was another kind. But you just cannot find it. Like 99% of that, you cannot find that kind of wheat anymore. There are maybe like some people who preserve this heirloom strain. Same thing with corn and soy. 95% of it is modified. There, you cannot find on the market. Even if they call it organic, it's really not. It's really not. And that's a whole other issue about how it's cross-contaminating and cross-polluting. And even some of the things that they're able to call organic, it doesn't have to be 100% organic. It has to have, like 90 or 95% organic, which means you're still getting toxins. Also, some of the fertilizers in organic, and I'm not against organic, I'm merely saying some of the fertilizers that they use actually are a bit more toxic. There's a lot to cover here, and I'm just too excited. Okay, so this whole diet that we're eating now is foreign to us, and is foreign to our body. And if our body needs time to evolve, it has not actually had that time to evolve. And in fact, what do we know about evolution? Non-adaptive traits will die out, as in it will either kill the organism, or that organism will not reproduce, or the changes will not take effect. Like, it won't have time to do that because it's not adaptive, it's not beneficial. That makes sense. Okay? So, because it's new to us, and because it's actually not healthy for us, what do we notice? As soon as we started changing our source of fats from butter and lard and all those like animal products to these basically like engine oil, like freaking canola oil and Crisco and all this other crap, hydrogenated oils, heart disease went up, diabetes went up, people were dying, coronary heart disease, what else? The plaque, the cholesterol, everything that's bad, quote unquote, went up. actually, one thing about cholesterol, people don't seem to understand, and I mean, like, even doctors don't seem to understand this, which is bizarre. Cholesterol is and I think I've said this before, cholesterol is a inflammatory response. You anyways naturally make cholesterol, and you have cholesterol, and it's there for a reason. It's sent out to try to heal inflammation, and the plaque happens when you, like, it's covering whatever it is, it be they tears or whatever in the artery walls, so that it has time to heal. And if there's constant inflammation, it just builds up and builds up and builds up, and that's why the plaque kind of constricts the arteries. And that's not the only reason, but just like as a simplified, quick and dirty version of it, cholesterol is not necessarily a bad thing. The reason that they say the small particles, the LDL cholesterol, is bad is because, it can get clogged and all the rest of it. Okay, so where is this coming from? And I mentioned that this is like ideology and propaganda. This is not natural to the way that we eat in the grand scheme of things. So we're not going to be able to mutate our stomach and intestines and all the rest of it quickly enough to make this change feasible. Again, if it takes thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, hundreds of thousands, millions of years, think about that timeline. If already in the last few decades we're having such adverse reactions to this diet, which is unnatural to us, how could we possibly actually adapt to pass it on? We'll die before this trait has any chance to take its effect on us. So just think about the logic of that. There is no logic to that. Okay, let's have a little look now, just for entertainment's sake. Oh, where am I? Can you see the picture? I don't know. Yes, okay, we can see the picture. So this is sort of a funny picture, and I'll post the links to where I got these pictures from, the slides. They're from various different presentations that I was watching. Look at our evolution. I'm just going to use my cursor here. So we were, primitive man with a bone, less primitive man with a spear, modern man. Notice something about the tools. He's strapping with a gun, and he's well fit. And then, look, balding, fat, just gross, with fast food. And then he just ends up becoming a pig and cattle. And that's, again, think back about the title of this video. What does a certain someone think about another certain someone? I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so is there another instance of when doctors, science has been wrong? Well, yes, there is. Here's a very clear example. Back in the day, I think this was like in the 1800s or something, doctors were killing people, especially children, on the obstetrics ward, where they were dying of childbed fever, which is just peripheral. I think this person made a typo there. Peripheral sepsis. So it's blood toxicity, blood poisoning sepsis. So they died. Why? Because they didn't wash their hands. They were spreading bacteria and dirt and germs because they didn't wash their hands. Now listen to this. People actually, like this doctor told his nurses and other doctors, like, hey, I think you should wash your hands. Maybe this would help. And they didn't. They refused to. They refused to do it because why? One, obviously ego and hubris, and you couldn't possibly conceive that you're wrong. But they also didn't think that it would be possible that doctors would be the ones killing their patients. It had to be something else. Think about it. Nobody wants to take responsibility, even though some of the people pushing this kind of trend obviously know that this is them doing it, whereas others maybe don't because they've just been taught that way. The medical schooling system it's not the kind of place where you ask a lot of questions. It's the kind of place where you learn, repeat, and do as you're taught to practice. Okay. Food. What is the cycle of life in food? It's very, very simple, and it's very, very sustainable. And I will go ahead and use those terms because they apply here. I don't like the propagandized version of them, but they have meanings before they reinvented the meanings, and I would like to use them. And this is the person who drew it. She's a dietitian. She's awesome. Okay, The sun is free. The rain is free. The grass is free. The poop and urine, which is the fertilizer that the animal naturally makes, that's free. Okay, the soil there is also there free. So how exactly is it not sustainable if you just pasture raise the animal? Okay, yes, there are going to be certain things that you can use to feed it, like you may want to finish it on grains, or you may want to use discarded, feed from like refining the food that people eat that they can't eat the the husks and things off. So I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But this is like the natural carbon cycle, the water cycle, all the rest of these things. These are natural. And you see here it says biodiversity. This is the kind of diversity that is our strength. We need that. So what is wrong with the way that we're farming now? It's monocropping. Nature does not want one thing. Go anywhere in a forest, in a ravine. What do you see? Different types of trees, different types of moss, different types of plants, different types of bugs, everything is different there. It doesn't like uniformity. It doesn't like that. Okay? So, of course, it would apply to farming as well. Agriculture is, as much as it's a good thing that we can feed a lot of people, it's become a really bad thing because we're depleting the trace minerals and minerals from the soil. We are actually making it, rendering it useless quite soon. It's, scientists are saying that in about 60 years, if we keep this type of agricultural practices, the soil will be so depleted and useless that we actually won't be able to continue farming, especially with all the pesticides that we're spraying. So just think about that. They're threatening you that in 10 or 12 years that you're going to die from whatever unknown, potentially not true source. But other people who are not trying to be alarmist are merely projecting what, if we keep doing what we're doing, it's not good. And, you don't need to be a tree hugger to know that that's not good. That's our lifetime. Think about that. Okay. So what do these animals actually eat apart from the free grass? Okay. Most of it, grass and leaves. Can people eat that? No. So it's not taking away from you. What else do they use? The crops residues. So like byproducts of things that like they'll harvest the wheats and then we'll eat the edible part, and then everything else, which is quite a lot of it, we can't eat. So the cows will eat it or other animals will eat it. Can we eat that? No, obviously. So it's not taking anything away from us. Yes, there are some grains that go to the yes, so oil cakes and seeds, like byproducts, other non-edible. Basically, most of it is not edible by us. So there's nothing that it's taking away from us to feed animals this. Okay, this is this douchebag vegan doctor, another one of these type of scammer people, who he does not disclose his conflicts of interest, but he certainly has quite a lot. Hershey's pays him, Quaker Oats pays him, Kind Bars pays him. I think that's like a Nestle Co company. Anyway, this another one, Kobani, I don't know that one. Western Sugar Cooperative, there you go. Okay. He is from Yale, so we know that he's been thunder tugging in a coffin, obviously. So look at what he said. This guy's a piece of shite. Let me tell you what he said about the keto diet. The ketogenic diet, sure, it will cause you to lose weight in the short term. So would cholera or a cocaine binge. And that doesn't mean it's a good idea. So guys, let's go on a Coke bender, because that is the same as being on a healthy ancestral diet that isn't going to kill you. So this is definitely the diet Charlie Kirk is on, obviously. But can you believe this guy? Can you believe the shit that he's saying? He's like straight up slandering people. I am very shocked by this. But not. Okay. So just to not make this too long, because there are lots of videos that I'd like to link for you to watch and learn more, from professionals. Because again, I'm not a professional, but I do follow this lifestyle. And I noticed that when we're traveling or when we're just being a bit lazy and we come off of this, because my husband and I both do it, you can tell immediately you don't feel as good. The weight starts coming on, and trust me, it's day and night noticeable. So let me end it off with, of course, a Bible verse, because obviously, you can read whichever translation you want. I like the KJV, but it's a little bit, I know sometimes people have a hard time following along with the Old English. So let me give you there's various translations, but this one is the New Living Translation. And I picked it because it sort of is the most plain English. Okay, listen to this. This is Colossians chapter 2, verse 16. So don't let anyone condemn you for what you eat or drink, or for not celebrating certain holy days, or new moons, or Sabbaths. For these rules are only shadows of the reality to come, and Christ himself is that reality. Don't let anyone condemn you by insisting on pious self-denial or the worship of angels, saying they have had visions about these things. Their sinful minds have made them proud, and they are not connected to Christ, the head of the body, for he holds the whole body together with his joints and ligaments. Okay, this is like a weird translation. I like the Old English better, but you get the point. Do not let people tell you what to eat or drink, or what to celebrate or not celebrate, or how to deny yourself, or this and that. Yes, fasting is good. Yes, intermittent fasting is great. Yes, eating certain things is healthier, provably healthier than other things. Yes. No, you don't have to do these things. No, you don't have to have a kosher kitchen where you have twice the appliances of everything, and where some scam guy goes around stamping yes or no on certain products and jacking up the price. Like, who actually do you think suffers from this? They do, not you, because they're scammed and duped into it. So all I'm going to say is do some research. Look at some of the links that I've provided. There's so many more. I think once you start watching them, hopefully the suggested videos, if it's working properly, will give you far more information. But there's a lot out there. And the funniest thing is, and again, I'll just wrap up with this. The funniest thing is that these USDA guidelines or whatever guidelines, they have no scientific basis, no clinical trials, no causal relationship scientific basis to give these recommendations. Whereas our side, eating low carb, no or minimal refined grains, healthy fats, healthy protein, meat, and a high amount of it. There is science for that, and not just that there's science for that. There is, how the hell did we evolve? How the hell did we get here? Thousands of years, millions of years. How did we get here when they didn't have any of these things? And I mean, I guess you can make the same argument for vaccines and other things, but let's just stick to one topic at a time. How are all these things possible if, think about it, just be logical. It makes no sense what they're telling you. So don't let these people dupe you. Don't let people judge you, and don't let them try to guilt you or shame you into anything. You want to be ethical? Have like how Owen's doing, have a little farm or garden of your own. If you can't, join a little cooperative or something like that where people can pitch in and raise animals together. The whole point of the animal going around and grazing on the grass, it helps the grass grow. It helps make the topsoil more rich, and then it fertilizes it, and then you move on. You don't just deplete the hell out of it. You keep going to different pastures and come back around. This has been done forever, actually forever. So it makes no sense that all of a sudden we're supposed to be eating food out of boxes. It makes no sense. So, brothers and sisters, let no man judge you in your meats or on your feast days or any of these things. Piety is not good. These people are acting like the religion of science, the religion of veganism, the religion of environmentalism. No. We as Christians are good custodians of the world. We are commanded to take care of the world. So, no, we shouldn't factory farm. No, we shouldn't exploit animals. No, we shouldn't degrade the environment. No, we shouldn't make people intentionally unhealthy for money. The love of money is the root of all evil. Remember that. Remember who's funding the science. Science. There is no such thing as consensus. When there is consensus, it's not science. Science is skepticism, rigorous testing of hypotheses, observations, and repeat falsifiability, verifiable, all of these things. This is nonsense that we are being taught. So don't fall for it. Be blessed. Be grateful. See you in the next one.